Thanks for joining us this morning. Can I ask you, first of all, what your message would be to people watching who might think George Floyd was really brutally killed in America, but this is not really a British issue? Why would people protest in this country? What are they missing?
Well, I'd ask them to listen to the protesters. The protesters are demonstrating, they're on the streets because they see parallels and echoes in their lives and their experiences, in their relationship with the police, in what's happened to George Floyd. And there's a long tradition of black people in different countries, different parts of the world, joining together at moments like this. So I'd ask people to listen to the protesters, to ask why black people feel this connection when they look at what happened to George Floyd, that they see echoes of their own life, rather than dismiss it.
You're a historian of all of this, and I'd like to ask you for a little bit of historical perspective, because we have periodically, every few years, something erupts. It's the Stephen Lawrence case, it's the Macpherson report, it's Mark Duggan, it's the Windrush scandal, and people say, this is a turning point, things are going to change. Have things changed? And if not, why not? And do you think this moment might be different?
Well, the fact that you can list that long, depressing catalogue of landmarks in this history shows that we haven't got to the bottom of the problem. We haven't got to the core of the issue, which is acknowledging what racism is, that it's systemic, that it affects all of us, that it's deeply hardwired into our culture, into our language, into the way we interact with each other. And we've hoped time and again that these moments would be turning points, there'd be landmarks that would begin a new age. And I'm tentative and nervous to say that this might be, but this feels to me slightly different, because what's really struck me all week is that there have been people, black and white, who've been trying to gather new knowledge. People have been buying books, they've been going online, they've been reading, they've been asking, what does racism look like? What does it feel like to non-white people in Britain and in other countries? That thirst for knowledge, that sort of outpouring of empathy and openness, that does feel new to me.
In a sense, you've already answered my next question, which is a lot of people will be watching at home and they'll be thinking, but I'm not racist. What do you mean Britain is racist? What should they be doing? How should they be educating themselves? And how should they change their lives to make this a better country for black people to be living in?
I think the big step we have to make is to not see racism just as being the overt racism, racial violence, the use of racial language, open discrimination, and accept that because our history is a history of exploiting and using people from Africa, because racism is deeply hardwired into that history, that it's disfigured our societies, that we have these disadvantages, that we have this language which is loaded with toxins that come from this history. And when black people talk about that, when they talk about the damage it does to them, the psychological damage, we seem to have spent a long time in this country just dismissing that. That's still happening this week. When black people have talked about how powerfully this moment connects with them, they've been told, oh, there's no comparison with America. You're exaggerating. You're drawing a false parallel. Well, that's part of this long habit of not listening to black people about what racism is. So listening. The real revolution of this week is black people and white people coming together and talking about what racism feels like, what it is to black people.
Professor David